Hello, everybody, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Wednesday, the 13th of December. A couple of days ago, about a week or so ago, I was doing my daily devotions from Common Prayer, a liturgy for for ordinary radicals. And quite often in it, after the prayers for the people in the Lord's Prayer, they have just a sentence that talks about the saint that they're celebrating that day, or a phrase. And all of them are for radicals. All of them in here are about people who have worked for the good of others, people who have stood up for against tyranny, things like that. And in it, the paragraph really hit me hard last week when I read it. So I flagged it. It says here, it's a prayer. Lord, keep us from trying to distinguish between the deserving and the undeserving poor. Help us work to alleviate suffering and injustice wherever we find it, trusting that the rest is up to you. Amen. I think that passage really hit me because I've been thinking a lot, especially this time of year, thinking about things like Christmas hampers and food banks um, and just how bloody expensive everything is up here. I don't know about what's happening in the States or other parts of the world, but in Canada, fairly recently, they've had the top three or five, I think it's three, CEOs of the companies that own the grocery stores come in to talk to the government, to an inquiry about why it is that they're making record profits, and yet they're price gouging. That people have seen the price of bread go double in the last couple of years. That food, vegetables, fresh food, things that they push, people should be eating healthy, and yet you go in to buy fresh fruit or fresh vegetables, and the quality is low and the price is extremely high. The fact that I've got farmers in my congregation who, that what they do is they raise cattle and they sell the cattle, and yet when we go in to buy, if you go to buy a steak or even hamburger or something, or the cheaper cuts in the grocery stores here in Canada, the prices are absolutely exorbitant. And the truth is that my congregation member is not seeing that profit is not being made by the person who gets up every morning at 5 or 6 a.m. and feeds the cattle and takes care of them and makes sure they're healthy and makes sure they're watered, and gets out there in the middle of the winter to break the ice so that those cattle they can have their water that's frozen over in the night. That profit is not going to them. Where is it going? There is a huge discrepancy between the average person and those who are up here on the pay scale in the government, not in the government, but in the private sector. And so things like food banks have become a big thing. Keeping enough food on the shelves in food banks is a big thing. Christmas hampers, Salvation Army did other things. The base where Rob works, the Padres do a Christmas hamper, in where they collect donations, and they financial donations, and they try to give gift cards for places where people can purchase toys, and for grocery stores so that they can buy the food that they need. And people think, well, the military, they make money, they make good money. They do, they make a good wage, but when your housing has gone through the roof, when your insurance goes up by a third, when the cost of gasoline, which everybody needs to be able to get to work, to get to school, goes up, and nothing, and but your pay scale doesn't. Yeah, people are hurting. There are families out there who are struggling, and one of the gifts of hamper programs like the Potteries one is that they recognize the dignity of the very people who need some help. For them to ask for help, or to be nominated by their units to to help them, that can be embarrassing, to have to say to somebody else face to face, I don't make enough money, or I haven't made the best decisions, or. The truth is, people who in this economic climate, people can make the very best decisions given the resources that they have available to them, and still find that they don't have enough. So think about this. If you are if you're someone who is in need of help, and you know that your kids are asking for not some wild and crazy, you don't want computers and things like that, but they just want a doll or some Lego or something like that for Christmas. You want to give them something. Is it easier for you to sign up for some place that's going to give you a hamper where they took your child's age and gender and said, here you go, here's a gift that may or may not be anything like what your child would want to play with? Will they be appreciative? Of course. But here you go. This is what we've deemed appropriate to give to you. Or coming in and sitting down with someone and them saying, here you go. We know how important it is for you to be able to buy your child a gift. For you and your spouse to go out and think about your child and buy something that they've asked for, something that you know they will love. Here's a gift card. You do the choosing. And we know how hard it is to have a good meal on Christmas Day, or even just to have bread and milk on the table every morning for breakfast. Here's some gift cards to a grocery store. No questions asked. If you want to buy Fruit Loops, oh, excuse me, I'm very dry. If you choose to buy Fruit Loops and chocolate milk to put on the kitchen table for the morning, or you choose to buy basic milk and no name Rice Krispies because that stretches further, that's completely up to you. There's no judgment. Which way do you think is best? We have this idea, I've seen too often this idea that when people need help, we have this, we as in the people who are available to volunteer and help. Not always, and it's getting much better, but there's part of the population that says, I'm going to volunteer, I'm going to work at the food bank, or I'm going to work at the hamper program, or I'm going to work wherever at that soup kitchen, and I am going to help them make better decisions. I'm going to explain to them how to budget. I'm going to help them to determine that, the decisions you make about what you're spending your money on, that's why you're in trouble. Forget the fact that maybe the decisions that they make are based on what the very little they have or the debts they have incurred. I know of plenty of people who are struggling because they have to pay child support and things like that. And just because you are divorced and don't have custody of your kids doesn't mean you're a bad person. We don't know the circumstances about what happened or why. All we know is that if you're trying to make child support, it sounds like you're trying to do the right thing by your kids. But that also means that it dips into the little bit you've got coming into your own household here. We can treat people like we know better, or we can treat them with dignity. This says here, Lord, keep us from trying to distinguish between the deserving and the undeserving poor. We shouldn't be distinguishing between anybody who's poor. If they are poor, we should help. Jesus said, when you did this for the least of these, when you fed the hungry and you gave water to the thirsty and you clothed the naked and you visited the sick in prison and you healed those who were you visited those who were in prison, you were sick, brought healing to those who were sick. That's when you did this for me. That's what we're called to do. It's not our job to go and volunteer to Foodbank or volunteer to Soup Kitchen or donate to a charity and then determine, no, I won't donate to that local charity because they just give it to people. I want to give it to this charity because they demand that family does budgeting counseling, or that this family they have to show how worthy, how bad things are off for them. We are called to treat every individual with dignity and respect. And looking at a person when they go into the food bank, think about that. If you had to go into a food bank because you needed food, how much dignity do you feel like you have in that moment? Do you need someone to tell you, well, you probably shouldn't take that mac and cheese, you should be taking cans of salmon? When you know darn well that, for one thing, your children are allergic to fish, and the one thing your picky 9-year-old daughter will eat is mac and cheese? Is it more important that they have some food in their belly when they go to school, or that they eat healthy and eat nothing? We need to recognize that we are not called to judge. Jesus will take care of that, if indeed it's necessary, but it's not ours to do. We are in a world we have a significant portion of our population has so much that they could probably take care. I imagine there are a couple people who live in Wainwright that if they gave up their salary for 1 month, they could take care of the food bank people for that whole month. And we've got people here in Wainwright, where I live right now, who are looking at that and saying, I can only go to the food bank once per month. And I have 3 kids. And everything I pick up off those shelves, in the humility and the humiliation it takes for me to walk through that door. I love them so much, but everything I pick up off those shelves is going to be for them. I don't know what I'm going to eat, but I'm going to make sure my kids are fed. That's a reality that exists in our society. And it is not ours to let that reality exist at all. It's ours to fix it. So we need to do two things. We need to work together as a community, as communities, to ensure that, number one, as long as we need food banks, they are stocked to overflowing, to the point that people can go more than once or twice a month to get the help they need. But we also, at the same time, need to remember this prayer: Lord, keep us from trying to distinguish between the deserving and the undeserving poor. Help us work to alleviate suffering and injustice wherever we find it, trusting that the rest is up to you. Amen. Remember your food bank. If you have extra stuff on your shelf today, make a point of gathering it up and going and dropping it off at your food bank. And if you have nothing and you need your food bank, go and use it. Let people know how real the need is. You starving doesn't let the world know what the true depth of need might be. Let us help you. God bless you all, whichever side of the divide you might fall. I'll see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachel. God bless.